Good morning, good evening, wherever you are across this beautiful nation and around the globe. This is Deja Brew, and we are waking you up with truth. I have an amazing guest today, Mike Walker, aka Skywalker. I love that.
Thank
And
you.
I'm going to let you take the floor and tell us about you.
Okay. Thanks, Kelly. Thanks for having me on. Um, so yeah, I'm Mike Walker, and my very first eye awakening experience with a UFO was back in 1985. I was 12 years old at the time, and it was in Hayward, California, and it had just turned dark. And I just remember walking out the house and meeting my friend Chano in the middle of the street, and we just went for a walk around the block. Now, reflecting on it now as an adult, it was kind of weird because there was no talking about walking around the block. It was more of an understanding that it was time to go for a walk around the block. But that's what we started to do. Um, and like I said, it had just turned dark, but the clouds were still out and they were pretty low and they were pretty. I was admiring the sky as we began our walk. And then all of a sudden, I noticed a certain part of the clouds were starting to swirl. And I had a couple of thoughts that ran through my head. This happened before we even turned the very first little hairpin of the block. There was a couple of thoughts that ran through my head before I actually blacked out. And that was obviously the first one was, are those clouds beginning to swirl? And then my very last thought was, oh my God, yes, they're starting to swirl. And it was fast. It started off very slow and small, and it got very big and fast. And I blacked out. And that right there was probably the most confusing part of that experience up until I was honest with myself about the whole thing, probably about 3 years ago, really. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, I blacked out, and when I came to my very next conscious moment, I was no longer there. I was like maybe a half a block further down the street. I was around that first hairpin that I told you that we haven't even got to yet, past a small little park, and now I find myself standing like a soldier with my arms tucked to my side, and I'm looking straight up, and I'm looking straight up at the belly of a flying saucer craft. And there's this blue light that's sporadically flashing on the belly of this craft. And I remember thinking, it looks like it has some kind of electrical issue that it's going through right now. I mean, I knew what I was looking at right away. I knew this was a UFO, a flying saucer. I've heard of them. And there was another thing that I noticed right away was I couldn't move. I couldn't move, Kelly. And you know what? I chalked it up to just not wanting to miss the moment because I
Uh-huh.
knew I've heard of these UFO things and I know that they don't last very long, right? So I knew what I was witnessing right there on the spot was something amazing. And I kind of compare it to being a little cold, and I just couldn't move. And I don't really think I tried. You know what I mean? Like I said, I just
Hmm.
chalked it up. I didn't want to miss a moment. So as soon as I started thinking, wow, it looks like it has some kind of electrical problem, and that kind of threw me for a loop because, hey, this is advanced technology I'm supposed to be dealing with here. And as soon as I thought that, it snapped out of whatever electrical funk I was thinking that it had, and it put on an all-out, beautiful, symmetrical, balanced, multicolored light show.
Awesome.
And yeah, and the lights, I described the lights on the belly of this craft as canned lights. They were around the perimeter. They were also around the core, the center, but at any given moment, it seemed like they can illuminate one of these canned lights on any part of the belly, because that's what kind of show it was. Is, I mean, these lights were dancing and flashing, and these lights actually started off a little slow too, and started speeding up, and it kind of reminded me of that old game we used to play, Simon Says. Remember, with the
Huh?
colors. It
Sure.
kind of it kind of reminded me of that. It started going really really fast. Um, the light show stopped. The craft slowly moves ahead of us quietly to where now I can see this craft as a whole. I'm no longer just stuck underneath the belly. I see the craft as a whole, and it's your typical saucer. There's nothing fancy to it. It's just a aerodynamic saucer, and it did a little bit of a wobble right before it took off near the speed of light. And I swear, the speed of which this saucer took off really put me for a whole nother shock on a whole nother level. Even though I had just gone through this vortex, the UFO experience, seeing this vehicle
Yeah.
leave was almost like a cartoon. It was almost funny. Um, yeah, so then I was able to move after it left, and I looked to my left because that was the last place my friend Chano was standing. And sure enough, he was still on my left. And the first words out of my mouth to Chano was, "Hey, that was a UFO, huh?" And he just goes, "Yeah." And that was a whole nother shock of its own as well, because
Right?
I was excited. I wanted to talk about what we just seen, right?
Yeah.
Forget the vortex, the funnel that I seen in the clouds. You know what? I don't believe I even talked about that for years. I went straight to the meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
I went to the flying saucer that, everyone's heard of that. That's not confusing. Well,
Hmm. Right.
So yeah, so I was really shocked that he wasn't very impressed. And
Right.
I it was an uncomfortable walk around the block. And I seen his older brother in front of their house as we were nearing the end of our walk around the block. And I said, well, I'm going to give it a shot with his older brother, Peter, and Peter's friends that were out hanging out in front of Channel's house. So I wasn't afraid to tell somebody the exciting news. So here's my first attempt at telling somebody that what I just experienced. And one of the boys said, oh, yeah, it went that way. And he pointed to the east over the
They
Hayward.
saw it too.
That's what I thought, but he was just playing. And
Aw,
it took me a few seconds to realize he was just messing with me.
dang
And
it.
yeah, he got me for a second because he pointed to the direction which I seen it go.
Yeah.
And Chano wasn't backing me up. I just kind of put my head down and walked back into the house. And I think I had another attempt at telling a couple people that were in the house at the time. And of course, that was the beginning of the long road of, I'm sure you believe that that's what you seen, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Unfortunately, that's the drill.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So soon after that experience, I started having dreams, and I called them dreams for years. But they were really weird dreams that stood out, and they were so vivid and so real and very weird, very odd. Uh, the one that really stood out to me was me standing in front of my childhood home, looking up at the roof, and I see this wheel within the wheel.
Oh,
One wheel going one way, the other wheel going the opposite way, and it's hovering above my, I call it, it's my grandfather Jack's house. After he passed away, we were able to move in for a limited of time before we ended up moving back out, and I moved across the street with the Lopez family, which took us in. But this dream, I was at my grandfather's house outside, and I see the wheel within the wheel. It's hovering, it's floating above the peak of the house. It's not making any noise. It's got like a gunmetal color to it. And it was a very crisp, clean, calculated, very even. You know what I mean? Like one was going this way, and while that one was going that way, this one was doing the total opposite.
hmm.
And I remember that this happened soon after my UFO experience, only for this reason, Kelly, because I remember thinking in my head that I'm not too impressed with this wheel within the wheel. You know why? Because I've seen a UFO not too long ago, and I know what UFOs look like.
Yeah.
They look like a flying saucer. They put on a multicolored light show. They're real quiet, and they take off near the speed of light. This thing was just a couple of wheels just kind of sitting there spinning, but it was still neat enough to me in the dream to want to share it with the other people that were in the neighborhood. Well, nobody could hear me, nobody could see me, nobody could feel me. And I just had the feeling of, dang, I'm the only one that could see it, and I called it a dream for years, Kelly. Um, Probably only up until, like I said, about 3 years ago. There was a few things that triggered me along the way, because I had no idea what that was. I've never heard of anything like that, until one day I watched Contact with Jodie Foster, and I seen this thing that they had in the movie that looked a lot like the wheel within the wheel. And I think it triggered me a little bit. I got a little emotional because it was an emotional part of the movie. She was going back to see her dad that had passed away on the other side. And that was the vehicle that she took, was this wheel within the wheel. It was very interesting to me. And then Ancient Aliens came along and they started talking about Ezekiel's vision of God. And I wasn't really into religion and things like that. Um, as a kid, I kind of wandered off to all these different little churches, and I've experimented with all these different kinds of, speaking in tongues, eating the bread, getting in
Mhm.
line. I don't even
Mhm.
know what religion they were, but
Right.
I experimented when I was little, and I wondered why I was born with a religion. I had a little bracelet that said Roman Catholic, and I always kind of wondered who said that. Who made. I don't know. It was just weird, but it forced me to get into religion a little bit after I heard of Ezekiel's vision of God, because he's describing a wheel within the wheel.
Mhm.
And then I started studying the phenomenon and realized, not many people had seen it. And as a matter of fact, you're not really supposed to be talking about it, unless you were a high ranking priest or a prophet, or
Mhm.
and so I thought to myself, what what I had no business seeing that. You know what I mean? So I knew that there had to be something to it. There had to be something to it. And I got into the biblically accurate angel, the angel hierarchy, and I learned that the wheel within the wheel is called many things. One of them is, it's called the throne. Um, I think it may very well be called the spirit's chariot, the Merkabah. I think we call it a lot of different things at different times. But yeah, I just knew there was something to it, so that's why I was interested in it, because I experienced it, and I know there's got to be some aspect to it. But Kelly, what a contrast to have the UFO experience, and then to have to what it seems like an angelic experience. And you have that argument, you have that UFO and aliens versus spirituality and religion, and that's a big argument right there. And I'm not an argumentative person, I don't like confrontations like that, but for some reason that's what's on my plate this time around. uh,
Right.
yeah, so it actually has gotten a little biblical. And when I started being honest with myself, and I learned that when I blacked out, they more than likely took me aboard the craft. Maybe they may have not taken Chano. His experience may have been totally different. I didn't understand that when I was a child. I just assumed he went through the same thing I did.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, so I left it alone for years because I just got jaded. I was a kind of a class clown. Nobody really believed me. I just left it alone. It was easier to just go back into the social programming.
Yeah. Yep.
um, until one day I became honest with myself. There I go. And I told myself that was more than a sighting. I think they took me because I blacked out and they displaced me. They didn't put me back in the same spot. Some might call that the Murphy's Law.
Mhm.
They've done that before with other people.
Oh yeah.
Um, yeah, Betty and Barney White, for
Sometimes with your
example.
sometimes with your clothes on backwards, or
Right.
missing a
Yeah.
sock, or yeah.
Hmm. And who knows if that's on purpose or not,
Exactly.
because maybe I wasn't ready for that information until maybe a few years ago.
Yeah.
Um, and so yeah, I realized that it's like, Mike, these are not dreams, these are visions. And I don't know why they were showing me these visions of angelic wheel within the wheel. They showed me walking a beach with hundreds of dead beached whales with my aunt Cindy. It was a really weird vision. Everything was beautiful about the vision except for the whales being dead. I didn't smell death. I had my aunt Cindy with me. I was holding her hand. It was a beautiful day, and we were walking on a beautiful beach. Um, and then there's another real quick one where I was running from a crashing flood, and in order to jump to safety, I climbed up Stonehenge, and I got to the very top of Stonehenge, the very top of the rocks, and the water just submerged just to the top, and I was safe. So those dreams, I became honest with myself and called them visions because there was
Hmm.
something more to it than just a dream.
Yeah.
And I asked myself once again, why am I dreaming of Stonehenge and floods? Um, how did I get up on them rocks so easy?
Hmm.
Uh, was I a giant? Now you want to throw the word giant, floods. I don't know. It's speculation. My mind just goes wild with it. I don't know
So,
the answer. Yeah.
okay, that's what I was going to say. So it's fair to say that you don't really know yet. Like,
I
what's your intuitive feelings on it, though?
I think it's just a matter of time and trusting my intuition and waiting for the right time to be regressed. I do think that's what I want to do is to get a hypnosis regression
Hmm.
from somebody local. Um,
Hmm.
I want to take. I know it sounds. I don't know if this sounds silly. I want to take a lie detector test. I want it to be documented. I want like a family member of mine to sit there with me if we can and just go through the steps. But I'm not quite ready for that yet.
Right. But you're
Uh,
you want that validation.
I do. I want
Yeah.
to know. I want to see the beings themselves. I don't have any memory of any actual beings except for no exception. I had a naturally surfaced memory. It was a dream. It was a continuing dream of being on board the saucer. I believe I became familiar with a small section of the UFO. Um, I can describe a few small rooms. One
Okay.
very large room, if you'd like.
Sure.
I kept waking up in this long white windy hallway with doors to my right. And it took a couple of nights before I realized, Mike, you keep showing up here. This is like 2 or 3 nights in a row now. So I told myself, all right, look, let's test this out. If I open up this door on the right, I should see a big giant room that looks like an amphitheater. There should be a stage and a little section for seating. And sure enough, Kelly, I open up the door. There's the amphitheater. There's the stage. So here I am. It seems like I'm on a tour, but there's nobody there. I'm standing on this stage looking out into onto what looks like the seating of like an amphitheater, but the seating's not the seating that you and I experience when we go to a ball game. It's more of a melted black obsidian abstract kind of seating. Everything else is bright and white and
Nice.
clean, except for the seating. For some reason, looked like melted obsidian to me. And then really fast, there was another smaller room that was within that big room, a room within a room. Uh, yeah, there was a black hot tub in there. It looked like one of them old school hot tubs that have all the little contoured molds for your legs and body. It was a black hot tub and it was dusty. And I took note of that. It was a mental note like, not only do they have electrical problems, but they don't have housekeepers either. You would think an
Right.
advanced, an advanced civilization, wouldn't have any issues with the electricity and dust. So
Right.
I don't think they appreciated some of the thoughts or that I had about the little defects,
Right.
but
They're
yeah,
like, "Oh, these humans."
yeah, like, oh gosh, this guy. So I've been married for about 25 years now, and I've known my wife since she was 17. I was 19, and she knows I'm a UFO guy. She knows how I had a UFO experience. Um, I don't think I've ever really explained to her the depth of what I believe may have happened up until a few years ago. And man, that didn't go over very well.
Uh-oh.
Uh, yeah, I could tell in her eyes that she just straight up didn't believe me.
Right.
It really broke my heart.
Yeah.
The person I'm married to and that I love, I want to share. I'm very passionate about the paranormal, UFOs, and angels, and things like that. And I really wish that I could share these things with my wife without her, not being
Right.
interested. So I
Right.
prayed. I prayed. I prayed. I have an energy table in my room. Some may just call it a crystal grid. I didn't know really what I was doing. I found this glass table that someone threw away, and I brought it home, and I started painting it. And before you know it, it's lit up with LED lights, and I've got crystals all over it. And I start making the wheel within the wheel. I put it in the center of my energy table, and I prayed that one day, if I that I could have another experience, and this time have it with my wife. And you know what? Maybe 2 weeks to a month, I forget. I kind of forgot about it a little bit, and I'm out having a cigarette in San Leandro in front of the apartments that we used to live in. This was July 21st, 2022. And me and my wife, Neely, are out front having a cigarette. And I see this object approaching. There's nothing spectacular about it. As a matter of fact, it's kind of moving like a satellite. It's starting from one side of the sky, and I could see it going one speed.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's kind of flipping and it's rolling. And and I didn't want to embarrass myself right away because I have done that with Mylar balloons and maybe the space station. Have kind of triggered me, and I've embarrassed myself for a minute before I realized what I'm really witnessing. Um, I didn't want to embarrass myself, so I said out loud, "What kind of drone is that?" I never seen a drone that looked like it was flipping and rolling. And Kelly, there was even a point where I was like, "Is it shape shifting?" I didn't get it. Nothing was clicking. And as it gets overhead, I start to put on like another level of concentration, and it's directly over my head. And I'm looking at this thing and I can't get an eye on it because it just keeps moving or shape shifting or morphing or something. I don't know. Didn't make sense at the time. But it illuminated some lights because I had this thought. I have a friend of mine. Her name is Angel Thacker, Dr. Angel Thacker. She's like a guru friend of mine. And she told me, next time you have an experience, try to relax and not get so wrapped up in the moment of, oh my gosh. She said, try to slow down and ask yourself or the beings, what's the message? So I actually did that. As it was overhead, I asked myself, what's the message? And it illuminated a pattern of very white lights. This pattern of lights looked a lot like Morse code to me. So I decided to check it out. So I Googled the four dots and the line, four dots and a line, four dots and a line. I Google search Morse code, and I'm thinking it's going to spell out something. And it ends up being a numerical number 444. And
Oh,
I was familiar with, angelic numbers 111, 222, 333, but I couldn't tell you all about every single one. But this angelic number 444, wow, that one, it was right up my alley. It was telling me that my spiritual guardian angels are protecting me.
yep.
I'm right on track. Things are gonna fulfill the things that I'm working on, my
Yes.
passions. And I was like, that must be the code, that must be the message that I got. So I just thought that was really neat. um Now me and my wife can have a conversation of something that more than likely was paranormal. I don't know. I went searching for the highest advanced drones that I could find, military grade. I'm like,
Right.
I've seen drones in the neighborhood. They're very basic. They go up, they go left, they go right, they flash red,
Yeah.
they flash blue, they go back home. They don't go too far.
Right.
And this thing just kept going, and I decided to get my phone out, and I knew it wasn't going to be some mind-blowing evidence that I was going to capture. But in my mind, I was thinking I was going to capture the license plate of that car just for memory, you know. And so I did. I pulled out the phone and I'm like, where is it? You know, because at this point, it's just another white dot in the sky. And I found it. I'm like, oh, there it is. And so I taped it. And as you see the tape, me being there and knowing there is a part of the video where I could see that where it was doing its thing, where it was really confusing me. Like, what are you doing? You know, flipping, rolling? What is it? It wasn't until my wife said that it reminded her of Saturn. And I go, what do you mean it reminded you of Saturn? She goes, well, you know, Saturn with the ring. And as soon as she said ring, Kelly, I was like, I look on
Uh-huh.
I look on my energy table and I start asking myself, what did you expect? This is what you prayed for. This is what you asked for. I went out for another smoke break pretty fast by myself this time. And as I'm sitting there, I hear an owl screech, and here comes two owls, barn owls, screeching over my head. And it's really significant because me and my wife have a relationship with one owl, and sometimes we see it. You know how beautiful those white owls look in the backdrop of the dark black sky.
Hmm.
It's very eerie yet pretty. So we hear them coming from you know, a long way, and we just kind of guess. It sounded like she was over there, and she should be over. Oh, there she is. We usually see her, you know, and I can do a pretty good owl impersonation. I can do a pretty high pitched screech. So I feel like I know this owl and I communicate with this owl, but it's always been just that one owl. And it was just significant to me. That's all. That it was two for the first time ever, you know, and one represented me, one represented my wife, and it
Hmm.
was just a little validation for me. Your prayer was answered, you
Yeah.
know. So
Really beautiful too.
yeah, it was. Thank you.
Yeah.
Things changed a little. Like I said, we can talk about things a little bit, but it just wasn't dramatic enough to where she's
Right.
going to go run out and join my UFO group, or join your group, or
Right.
become a ufologist, you know.
Right.
But at least the conversation is on the table, and it's a
That's
start.
good. Yeah,
Yeah,
that is a good start. It is.
and that's where I'm at
Now,
now.
I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure, cool.
So, with the within the wheel being a theme with you,
Hmm.
and I don't know if you're aware, but there's actually a lot of people seeing the wheel within the wheel lately and putting it all
No,
over like TikTok and YouTube. Yeah,
I,
just in the past month, there's
okay,
been like a huge sighting of these worldwide. Okay.
okay,
Now, with that being said, and you were shown visions of beached whales
yeah,
and floods.
yeah,
And I have a reason for asking this, a
okay.
personal reason. What is your intuition telling you about our future? Because a
Well,
lot of people are talking about like end times are near, big
yeah.
changes are coming, things like that.
Mhm.
So intuitively, what do you feel about that?
Intuitively, I do understand these are apocalyptic events that I was having visions of. I do understand that. But for some reason, I have an issue with carving anything into stone.
Agreed.
Um, and you know, I thought, you know, were these visions of something? Because I've Googled these events. As weird as the Google may have sounded on the Google side of things, I tried to Google crashing flood at Stonehenge, um, hundreds of beached whales. Well, for hundreds of beached whales, I've learned that that has happened
Hmm.
here and there,
Hmm.
unfortunately. And so I don't know if these are past events that I just, you know, I was given the message and I just didn't do anything with it, Or is it more of a time capsule? And from what you're saying now, because I've been Googling who else has seen it. Come on,
Hmm.
please. Has anyone else seen it? Um, I didn't know that until you just told me that. So I can't wait to
Yeah.
research that. But I'm
Well,
afraid,
it should still be in my history on YouTube, and I'll find those and send those to you so you can watch those.
okay.
Um, but my reason for asking is for me personally, ever since I was born onto this planet, I came with a certain amount of memories that as I've grown older and learned more, more memories are unlocked. But one of my earliest memories at like the age of 3, I was telling my parents that I'm here for something we're going to call the Great Awakening. I was given three things. We're gonna live through something called the Great Awakening. I had no clue what that meant at the time. Obviously, it was 3. Um,
Wow.
the world as we know it is about to change, will be the second phrase. And the third one is that we are who we've been waiting for.
Wow. We are who we have been waiting for. You
Mhm.
know what? Sum up all my experiences and what I've learned to sum it all up in a nutshell is it is inside each and every single one of
Yes.
us. It's a matter of using it or losing it. And if there's a program out there telling you you ain't got it, you ain't going
Then
to
you,
use it.
that's right.
And as a matter of
Right.
fact, if you do use it, you might be made fun of, or
Right.
you might be labeled as this
Mhm.
or that,
Yep.
and there's no money. And I'm a
Mhm.
broken record. But yeah, there's no money in us walking around healing ourselves and,
That's right.
not spending money and giving money to the pharmaceutical companies and things like
Hmm.
that.
Right. Or the insurance companies or
Oh, yeah, it goes on and
anybody else,
on.
because we literally, and I have learned this through testing my own gifts and the things that my Native American heritage taught me. I've tested it through scientific principles to make sure before I ever dared open my mouth, because like you, people make me sound like an idiot and you're
Sure.
crazy, you're delusional, whatever. But we can part storms, and then storms aren't destroying cities and homes, so we don't need the insurance companies. Right.
Right.
I mean, if we all know we can quell the hurricane and calm the waves or disperse the earthquakes and have it go out in many different fractals rather than one targeted, direction,
Yeah.
we can help each other. Not just heal each other medically,
Right.
but heal our planet and protect our planet and all of its inhabitants. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, if we can sit and meditate on a glass of water or whatever you're drinking and purify it by scientific tested method,
That's right.
it's cleaner, it's purer.
Hmm.
Why couldn't all of us sit around kumbaya in our homes and focus on cleaning up the ocean?
Right. It
We're
sounds
limitless.
easy enough,
We're
but there's
limitless
there's too
once
many.
we wake up to our power.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yep. There's just so many distractions out there.
Yeah,
And it just kills the vibration, the frequency, these things that we
well,
don't see, we don't pay attention too much of, stereotypically.
that's
If we don't
right.
see it, it doesn't exist. And in
Mhm.
fact, that's what we're creating. We're vibrating right now,
Yeah, we are. Everything is.
yeah.
Everything is
And
vibrating.
we've manifested exactly where we're at right now. Each and every single
Yep.
person on this planet is
Yep.
manifested where they're sitting at right now, if they like it or not.
That's right. They created it, whether they wanted to or not, or
Yeah.
realized they did or not, because we're creator beings.
Yeah, and I'm working on
Yeah.
myself. I've got plenty to work on. Trust me.
Me too.
I do
Hmm.
not want to sound like that person.
Right. Right. Me too. I'm still growing every day. And
Yeah.
my thing is, anybody that says that they don't have anything else to learn, that's when you
Oh,
know that they're
it
doomed.
yeah, it's time to check out then because
Yeah.
there's no more
Yeah.
work to do.
Right.
Yin
If you've
yang.
got, yeah. I mean, my mother was 90 and she was still learning. You know, we're never too old to continue our learning ever.
Right. Don't limit yourself. and
Yeah.
think you've got something figured out. Like we may not
Yeah.
figure this out this lifetime. It may take a few.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. I mean, I do believe in reincarnation personally. And I think that we come back each time to just keep figuring it out and learning more, you know.
Yeah, I think so.
Um, but I think in this lifetime, I feel like in this lifetime,
Hmm.
I mean, like it's literally the age of Aquarius. This isn't like 70s hippies talk, right?
It's
It's literally the age of Aquarius
yep.
in the constellation point of view.
Hmm.
And we're in that age now where there's people are coming back to God. They're becoming more spiritual, even if they don't want to be religious, right?
Yeah.
They're learning all these different truths about where we've been lied to and deceived and programmed and propagandized to the point of complete amnesia of who
Oh,
we
wow.
are and the fact that we can even talk to God ourselves, right? I mean, they taught us we
Yeah.
needed a middleman,
Ah,
you know, we needed a priest or a preacher to reach God, and we
right.
don't, you know.
Oh.
And I think this is really beautiful, exciting times that we're in. And like you said, nothing is like cast in stone.
Hmm.
So, because I, excuse me, I too was shown those visions of worldwide cataclysm, and I've had premonitions my whole life, and I'm just thinking, oh Lord, we're just doomed. You know, when I'm seeing all this, I'm just like, we're doomed.
Yeah.
However, I wasn't finished learning, and I've learned since then that if enough of us collectively wake up, we're not doomed at all. And that isn't something that was ever set in stone. It was shown to me as a choice. Just like the Hopi prophecy, where we will face the two roads and we will either choose to take the higher road or the road we've always traveled. And if we stay on that road, that's the road of cataclysm. That's the road where the earth has no choice but to do her thing, to
Right.
release the pressures and reset.
Almost like a timeline shift a little bit,
It is. And
It
I feel like it's cyclical. I think it's something that happens on a cyclical nature, and we just happen to be here for the right
it happens. I think so
tick of the
too.
clock.
I think so too. When you look at a frequency and what it looks like on paper, it's going up and down, up and down, up and down. That's life. That's
Yes.
some that sums it up.
Yes.
We've been here before. Every
Hmm.
150, 200 years, we think we're at the top of our game. And there's this big misconception of anything that was in the past couldn't be as smart as what we are today. When
Right?
when in fact they were more advanced back then than we
100%.
are today. This is all hit.
100%.
This is hidden dark work, skunk works. This is hidden
Yes.
stuff. This is not operating from love. This is operating from
Right.
greed. But I believe that there was a point in time, like Atlantis and
Yes.
the Lumerians, and there's things like
Yes.
that where we were more harmonious with these beings who may very well be our family. They may have
Right.
had a hand in our they may have had a hand in our creation, and
Yes.
they're proud of us, and they're curious, and they're task driven.
Yes.
I don't know.
And thank goodness they're just patient enough with us to
Oh man.
allow us to level up.
Yeah, they're like the kids found the matches in the backyard again, honey. We're gonna have
Right.
to watch them.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I've had a lifelong experience of being an abductee. And for the majority, it was very spiritual, very positive, um, teaching me how to hone my gifts, teaching me I had gifts to hone, because
See,
we just don't have a clue. And then, like, flash forward, I'm 20 years old and I'm trying to tell my mother about some of this. And she says, "Oh, well, your grandma was a healer."
oh wow, yeah, it's in the family. Guess what? It's in the
And
family.
I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, and your aunt Linda can read tea leaves and your aunt so and so does this." And I mean, like it runs in our family because I guess because we're Native American or Irish or German or all of the above, I don't know. But there does seem to be like some type of connection with those three specific mainly bloodlines, from what I've found.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what happened? Why does she not do this anymore? Because I mean, it was literally her husband that taught me how to part a storm. So why is she not still laying her hands on people and healing them? And my mom says, oh, well, because she became a Christian.
Oh, wow.
And they taught her in the church that that's wrong. That's
Yeah.
like the devil's work.
Yep.
And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
How is it the devil's work to heal someone? I just couldn't even believe, I couldn't even wrap my mind around it, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why my grandmother walked away from it and never spoke of it again. And she was a great healer.
Oh,
Like
wow.
there are stories that are amazing of her healing abilities. And when she became Christian, they were like, well, only Jesus can do that. So that's actually what made me become the person I am now. I'm an ordained minister, and I sought out all of the literature I could get my hands on to prove that Jesus does indeed want us to be just like him, literally. And that means embracing all of our gifts because they're God given. And so that's what I do, and I just started a Sunday service where I'm preaching that. Because
Okay.
I really want people to understand that, and give them their power back. This is how we save ourselves. This is how we
Give him the power back.
free
I love it.
humanity. Yeah.
Yes. I
This
love
is
it.
how the meek inherits the earth.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's like this is actually happening this time. It just happens to be like you said, happening at this time around.
Yeah.
We're here. And
And I want to actually take that one step further because I had a point I was trying to make and I
okay,
went off.
sure.
Have you ever heard of a star seed?
Yes.
What are your thoughts that you're a star seed?
Once again, Kelly, I'm afraid to okay, Arcturian and Pleiadian stands out to me. It jumps out to me, but it doesn't necessarily mean that that's what I am. I have a feeling that uh, it's like hopeful thinking or something that it's these beings or that I'm a part of. Um, I'm afraid to be that guy too, Kelly. I don't.
Okay.
I love the starseed thing. I'm interested in it. These people that claim that they're this and that, I believe them, but I'm not there. I'm not there. I
Okay.
can't. I'm not brave enough to say
All
that.
right.
But Pleiadian and Arcturian, for some reason, is somewhere on the cusp there
And
for me.
that sounds right to me because that's what I'm picking up from you as well. And just so that you don't have to be the guy that does this and makes himself feel like whatever, I'm going to tell you that I've been taking notes since we've been talking
Okay.
and you're checking all the boxes to be a star seed.
And you just lit up my whole body by saying that, and that usually means truth is around.
Yes.
So thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Oh, it's funny. Well, 2 years before that UFO experience, they came to me as a 1950s, 1960s waitress. I woke up in my bed and there was a waitress on the ground. She was about 4 foot tall. She was in a diner. I was 10, but I could tell that she wasn't wearing clothes that we wear today. It was 50s, it was 60s.
Right. Cute.
She was walking towards me. She had a plate of food. I wasn't terrified, but I was scared enough to call my mom's name down the short hallway. And I remember just saying, "Hey, mom, can I come sleep with you?" And she said, "Sure, honey, come on." It sounded like her. um, so my next decision to make was to take 1 foot and put it on the floor, and I didn't want to because I didn't want to step on this lady. So I told my mom, "Okay, but I don't want to step on this lady." And then Kelly, I blacked out, and I blacked out, and I don't remember having any conversation about that exciting night of waking up to a waitress, a small diner. I can hear the people talking. I can hear the forks hitting the plates. It was a diner,
Yeah.
and we didn't talk about it. We didn't talk
Yeah.
about it for years. And there's a commonality with that experience with the one I had in '85, and it just took me a while. I blacked out,
Hmm.
and I learned things of screen memories. They can show up any way they want, especially as a
That's right.
kid. They don't want to scare the big Jesus out of you.
Hmm.
I don't know
They
why
can
they.
even show up as an owl.
Oh yeah, I am very familiar with that as well.
White
Yeah,
white
deer.
ones in particular.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah,
What point to where you go, and we always, second guess ourselves. We beat ourselves up, like, oh,
yeah.
I could have been this. Maybe it's that. Maybe I'm going off the high end here, the deep end.
Yep. Yep.
But
Yep.
it is
Always
what it
trying to
is.
rein yourself back in. And
Yeah,
that's okay though. That's okay. Because you know what? If we're not doing that, if we're not checking ourselves, we might wreck ourselves.
you better check yourself before you wreck yourself. Yep.
Right?
Yeah. I was remote viewing before I even knew what I was doing. I was in the Navy,
Exactly.
21, stationed in Pearl Harbor. I'm laying in my rack, and I keep going to these places, and I keep giggling to myself. I'm like, that is not happening. It was my pineal gland, Kelly. I
Yeah.
was using my pineal gland. I just didn't know how. I didn't know how to use it. So I
Mhm.
ended up popping into these random places to where sometimes people would see me and they would want to come and talk to me, and it would scare me to where I would wake myself up and go, whoa, 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 where was I? That was
Uh-huh.
like a detention center. I didn't like the way that felt, or that was a disco club.
And I want to just throw a suggestion out here for you.
Okay,
What if those were actually glimpses of past lives?
I've thought of that. I thought of that as well. I thought of that as past, maybe as a future. The way things are going,
Mhm.
I don't picture myself at no dance club anytime soon. Um, but that detention center makes a little sense because I got locked up for like 8 days because of the Navy. Um,
Mhm.
I left a little early. I'll be
Did
honest with you, Kelly. I went AWOL, but it wasn't in the middle of war or anything like that.
right.
It was just I missed home. I was 21. I
Mhm.
was a kid, and I was ready to go, and I had to wait for all this paperwork from Washington D.C. And I finally got some of it, and I decided when I got on the plane to go to Treasure Island, they wanted me to go to Treasure Island and stay there for another couple of weeks until I waited for more paperwork. And when I got to San Francisco, I was like, I'm home. I got most of my paperwork. I'm going home. And I didn't know it, but they put a warrant out for my arrest. I
Yeah.
just never got in trouble for like 11 years, 8 years, 11 years. 11
Wow.
years. I finally got pulled over for something silly, and I had a no hold bail or whatever they call it, where no amount of money.
Damn.
And I just spent like
Ain't
eight
that a
days.
whooping?
It was. I didn't know what they were going to do with me. Everybody was saying, "Oh, you're going to Leavenworth," or
Throw him in the brig.
yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah.
It,
Man.
but yeah, um, I was in the Navy, and uh, I think I was remote viewing, man. I don't know. I still trying to practice it. I I think there is. I believe the fluoride thing, and so much
Oh
that
yeah.
I use Tom's toothpaste. If I could trust
Right.
that, I have a trust issue with everything. Am I really listening to Meditative 432 right now?
I do
YouTube?
the same thing.
Am I doing that right now?
I do
Huh,
the
Mr.
same
YouTube?
thing.
Huh, Mr. Rockefeller?
I'm like, there's no way I'm going to sleep this because I don't know for sure if it's right.
Trust issues. Trust
Yeah.
issues. I'm telling you.
Yeah. And as far as the whole toothpaste thing goes, I used to buy the Tom's toothpaste too. And now I am totally off of toothpaste
Baking
altogether. And
soda.
we use coconut butter or coconut
Oh, I
oil.
use that for deodorant. Coconut
We use coconut
oil.
oil. We brush our teeth with it. I put it in my hair. We put it on our skin. I make medicines with it. It's
Yeah.
great. It's great.
See? We could do
Yeah.
this too. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I make all kinds of holistic stuff. Yeah. Like we're all natural here. We don't do those not for kids or adults, the needles in the arms.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, we
There's
don't
there's a
do we
ton
don't
of
do none of that.
I love your great awakening. I mean,
Yeah. I
and
homeschool.
it's some people, oh, I'm awake, I'm already awake, I already went through my awakening, and it's like, I don't think it's like that. I think there's a
No,
lot of little awakenings. I think
I do
once you get
too.
a certain amount of truth in one certain subject, let's say diet, I
Yeah.
believe that's an awakening. of
It
its
is.
own. The whole
Mhm.
diet thing, sports. I was a sports fanatic. I used to let football control my emotions all through
Yep.
the week. First, it was just Sundays and Monday night. Then they had Wednesday night football, then Thursday night, then oh, it was America's
Yep.
Saturday night. Oh, geez, I was a wreck, and I
Yep.
let it go. I'll still enjoy a good old nostalgic ball game. I
Mhm.
like to hear it in the background, but I won't get emotionally involved in it. These are all little awakenings.
Yes. Ingredients in your food, ingredients
Yes.
in your products. Like I went through phases, you know. I went through several phases in my life to where I am now, and now I have
Yeah.
this huge file cabinet full of information in my brain.
Whoop, there it is.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. But yeah, we
awesome.
we all have to start somewhere, and I'm sure you agree. We can't fault anyone for being further back in the game or further ahead of us in the game.
No.
We can't feel bad for where we're at just because somebody's ahead of us,
Yeah.
because
Right.
there has to be a leader somewhere, and there's got to be a caboose,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Yeah.
So we're just all part of the train.
Yeah. I think I'm pretty slow. I'm pretty behind, but I like it. I like it. It gives me
I
I
don't
think I
know.
get more time to I don't know, perfect things or at least try. I'm
Well,
always the last one on the block.
I think you're ahead of the game, and you just don't give yourself enough credit. Honestly,
I do hear that a lot.
yeah. Maybe you should kind of take that in.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, take that in if you're hearing that a lot.
Maybe I will.
Yeah,
Maybe I will.
because that's part of it too. That's another part of this awakening is that self love and knowing that it's okay to give yourself credit for things that you've done and you've learned. That's
Yeah.
huge. That's a really hard thing for all of us to do. Is to
Yeah.
is to say good job to us. We can give out good jobs and attaboys to everybody easy breezy.
Yeah.
But when it comes to us, we're harder on ourselves because
Yeah.
we are our toughest critic.
We are. We are. And I'm always beating myself up and not giving myself enough credit.
Yeah.
Um,
So let's change that today.
okay. Very
Okay.
well.
All
Very
right.
well.
Bravo. Very good. All right. So what else you want to talk about? What other experiences have you had or revelations in all of this?
Well, people used to ask me, has anybody else in your family had experiences before? Because I understand that it's a family thing. And I used to always say no. Um,
Me too.
but in reality, my mom did have a story that was exclusive to just me. I believe her. My mom was a bartender growing up, and I'm going to be honest. My family, they've all passed away due to addictions and alcohol and crank. And I had my sister's gone, my dad's gone, my mom's gone. Um, but she had told me that she had an experience up in the Hayward Hills with a couple of friends. They were up at a park listening to the radio, sitting on the grass on the hill, and all of a sudden the music stopped. Her friends kind of stopped, and Jesus Christ came before my mother. He was wearing a white robe, and he had his little typical satch. I think they call it stash. I don't know. Um, and she,
Sash.
yeah, sash. And she said that there was a little cloud that covered his face just so conveniently to where you couldn't see every detail of his face, but she knew who this man was. And he asked her a simple question without moving his lips.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked her, "Are you ready? Are you ready to go?" And she thought to her in her head, "No way I'm ready to go," right? As soon as she thought that, music came back. Her friends started moving like they were. She didn't speak of it to anybody. She trusted me, her son. And I realized that was an experience. I,
Yeah.
I, I always separated it. You got your UFOs and saucers over here. You got your Bible, spirituality, Jesus Christ, all that stuff's over here. And it's like the message I'm getting is they're all one and the same.
Yes.
And And I think that's what they were doing. If anything came from the heavens, the Anunnaki, those who came from above from the heavens, if they came down from the sky, I'm going to line myself up with this person. Why? Because they got it figured out. I'm going to kick it with this dude.
Right.
I'm going to try to learn and absorb everything I can. I see that turning religious. And then I'm sure at one point it was very true and real, and a little
Yeah.
part of it gets hijacked as time goes on, and there's
Oh,
other agendas to
absolutely.
push. Then you got all these rules, and as a
Yes.
kid you're like, I don't think my God is like that. My God's got a
Right.
sense of humor. My
Right.
God's, I'm a clown. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
get this from nowhere. you
Mm-hmm.
know um
Right.
I don't know, it's just my thoughts.
No, I 100% agree with you, actually. I think that they didn't have the language to describe what they were seeing. And so in there, and I'm not talking about the intelligent civilization that built the pyramids. I'm not talking
Okay.
about those folks. I'm talking about people before them that were more primitive,
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the language for what they were
Right.
seeing,
Yeah.
right? Because I mean, I know there's still debates on who built the pyramids, whether it was ancient aliens or ancient civilizations. I
Yeah.
say, why couldn't we have been intelligent enough to do it ourselves?
I always
You
thought
know,
you got to give us some kind of credit.
right? But yeah, I think they came from the sky, so now they're automatically gods, and maybe they did have a hand in creating us. But does
Yeah.
that make them our god?
I don't know. We do that with animals. I always look at stuff that you and I do on this scale right here where we're
Right,
at right now. And if you fast forward it, it kind of looks
right,
like some of the stuff that we're wondering.
right.
You look at reality shows and you go like, okay, if I speed forward reality shows to hundreds of thousands of years in the future, what would a reality show look like? Well, we're getting so in depth into everyone's lives. It's almost as if you're standing back playing God, watching your creation, proud
Hmm.
of your children. They found the matches, like I said, and
Yeah,
got to keep an eye on them. Let's see if we can do this with make
right,
a thoroughbred, a purebred. This doesn't stop on our
right,
level. Yeah.
right. And on the flip side of that, like I personally have had 7 children. That doesn't make me a god. It makes me a creator being, but
Wow.
not a god, right?
I don't know. That's pretty cool. That sounds like Mother Nature at least.
Well, fertile myrtle runs in our family.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's a beautiful thing.
it is. We were meant to procreate. It's in the genes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my mother was one of 16 and my dad was one of 9. So we come
Okay.
from we come from a big family.
You come from some
Yeah,
people.
we come from some people. And I'm one of 7 myself. So, yeah,
Oh.
we come from some people. Family reunions are busy.
I bet.
But yeah, I mean I'm not gonna call myself a god just because I've popped out a bunch of kids. you know.
Yeah, that's one of the things I
But I
find.
did create life.
Yeah, that speaks in volume.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah,
there's the yin and yang of
always,
it.
yeah. I always had the issue though of feeling, special or anything. It was like a roller coaster of
Mhm.
emotions. I went from feeling special to not so special because I'm
Yeah.
thinking of it like, oh, I was just like an animal being, you know, tested and watched, and
Mhm.
like I don't think I have chips in me. To me, to have a chip just seems kind of barbaric. It seems old fashioned. If an advanced species is advanced enough, not only technology wise but spiritually wise, they wouldn't need a chip. Like,
Mhm.
oh, I lost Mike Walker. He must be his chip. Yeah, that was a recall. I should have. We should have recalled. Let's go ahead and take them again. Where's that waitress? Where's that? Where's that waitress? But yeah, I thought it was a ghost for many years. That waitress, Kelly. It wasn't until an experiencer friend of mine, Neil Bowman, he wanted to hear my story, and he said, "Mike, can I ask you a question? Have you had any other paranormal experiences?" And I'm like, "Well, I've seen a ghost before." And he's like, "Let's hear it." I said, "Well, I woke up in the middle of the night and there was this waitress. She was made out of static, Kelly, like old school
Oh,
television
yeah.
static.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um, and that's it was very detailed, but static. And so I tell him the story about the 4 foot waitress, and that's what it was. At the end of the story, Neil Bowman goes, "Now, Mike, let me ask you something. Why do you think that waitress appeared to you as a 4 feet?" And Kelly, when he said that, guess what? My whole body lit up.
Yep.
From my calves to the back of my neck lit up in truth.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I believe they
Yep.
had taken me earlier than I originally thought, And they
And they
used a
always do.
waitress. A
They
wait
always do.
man.
Yeah, it's always a lot earlier than that first memory.
Yeah, I've been going around saying it for years. Oh, my very first UFO experience was 1985. I was 12 years old in Hayward, California.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Yeah. And they've probably been visiting you since you were in the crib, honestly.
Yeah, I think they had a hand in actually saving my life. As soon as I was born, I was allergic to I'm allergic to penicillin, and
Hmm.
they gave it to
Interesting.
me, and I blew up like a purple balloon. Almost died, I guess, when I was just an infant. So
Mm-hmm. That's a common theme too for star seeds.
there's been quite a few.
We don't do so good with their medicine.
Ah, if you think about it, I mean, penicillin is a mold of itself. It's like, of course, I'm
Hmm.
allergic to it. It's mold.
Yeah, right? Do you know what they used to use before they came across that invention?
Ah, no.
Colloidal silver.
Oh my.
And it's amazing.
Whoa.
And there's nobody I know in the world that's allergic to it so far. Out of all the research I've done, I've never found anybody allergic to it. Colloidal silver.
Okay.
It's freaking amazing. You can take it internally or externally.
Thank you for that.
Hmm.
I trust in and I
Yeah,
trust in that.
I'm the herb lady. I know what I'm talking about. Like I'm serious. We don't go to doctors. We don't do none of that
Yeah, that's starting to make more
unless
and
it's
more
an
sense.
emergency.
Yeah. I'm afraid to go to
And
the doctors
me too.
because
Me
they'll
too. And
find
they
something.
well, they have failed myself and several of my family members in so many different ways that
Not even worth going. Yeah.
it's not even okay anymore. It's not even
Yeah.
okay. You can't overlook it. And so, I mean, I say most emergencies, I would even do them at home if I can, but I know my limits and I know when to call, right? But no, like even my last child, I had my last child at home. Just me and my 1-year-old baby was in the room when I had him because I don't want anything to do with him if I can help it.
See, we're starting to go back to having these babies in the home, and
Yep.
we're schooling our kids in the house
Yep.
because we have trust issues.
Yeah. And my kids are hella smart. My 2 youngest
Wait a
ones,
minute. Did you say hella smart?
hella smart. Yes.
That's California right there. Hella,
Uh,
hella. Okay.
whatever.
Okay, girl.
Whatever.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Indiana's hip too.
You go. You go, girl.
But my 2 youngest ones that I still have at home, the other 5 are grown. They've got a life of their own. They're already 18 or older. But the 2 youngest ones are 8 and 9. And if they were in public school, they would be in 2nd and 3rd grade. But these kids are doing 5th and 6th grade work. And my youngest one, the boy that I had at home, he's starting to write his own math equations now where he's making up new math based on the language of pi.
Okay. Wow.
Like, What?
Yeah.
I'm like, you just blew me out of the way.
These kids are advanced. I'm telling you, it's like
Yeah.
they're getting more and more advanced. I got two boys. They're very smart. They're very, very smart with
Yeah.
all this computer stuff.
I know. I'm my my 9-year-old does all of my editing and stuff for my videos because I am not technologically savvy at all. And she's just like a whiz at it,
Yeah.
you
My
know. So
my
she's my editor in chief. She's my moderator for stuff. She's in it. She's busy.
That's my son. That's my older son, Lucas, 27-year-old. He's the one that set all this up for me. This is his little,
Yeah.
and he did it for all of us. I'm in a small little room. This is part of his closet, and he's all, Dad, you could do your podcasts here. It's just this beautiful thing. He did all this for me and for all of us.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
he's a
Yeah.
proud son. He's a proud son. I'm a proud father.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank God for our technically advanced children.
Yeah, for sure.
Because I'm assuming you're an 80s kid. We would get left behind if it wasn't for them.
Yeah, well, good old 73 was my magic year.
I was born in 72, but yeah, 80s kid.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't realize how much I loved the 80s until we got out of there.
I know, right?
I thought it was too much, the checkerboard, break dancing, electric boogaloo. I was like, oh, that's just too much. Mismatch. Now I look back, I'm like, that was cool. Man.
Yeah. It's so cool that when I had my 52nd birthday party, it was just me and my couple of cousins and my kids. And I'm like, I'm going to do the worm. And they're like, you can't do the worm anymore. I'm like, watch me. And by God, I did it.
Uh,
I'm like,
yeah.
I was
The
like, oh,
AKA the
yeah.
dolphin. Yeah.
Oh,
They
yeah.
also
I
call
still
it the
got
dolphin.
it.
It's the worm, the dolphin. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. I
Wow.
was like, hell yeah, I can still do this.
Oh yeah, I loved breakdancing. I was in a little group called the Cronin Supreme Breakers, and they called me
Right.
Noise Boy because I used to make I make a lot of sound
Uh,
effects. You
yeah.
know,
He was like, whoop,
um,
whoop.
I was like, and
Doing your beatbox sounds and stuff.
pop locking, and
Right? Did you have
yeah,
the parachute pants?
yes I did.
I love it.
Yes I did. We had our
Love
own
me
mat.
some parachute pants.
Yep, and we did have our matching uniforms, the blue sweats and the
Oh,
blue
like
jacket with
the
with the
windbreakers.
with the stripes going down the side. They were TIs. I think they were called
Oh,
TI. Yeah.
oh my God.
Our leader was Carlos. He was so good. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
So fun.
Breakdancing in front of Taco Bell and stuff. It was
Yeah, man. We were like the coolest teenagers in all of history, in my opinion, though.
oh, but now we're
Yeah.
cringy. We're cringy now.
We're cringy.
Yeah, that's what my kids say whenever I try to say something cool or like say a word that was cool, back in
Oh,
my
right.
day. They're like, Dad,
Right.
that's cringy, man. Dad, that's or if I try to say something that they say these days, like YOLO is probably
Right.
a heck of old already, But I'll,
Right.
something for an example, YOLO, like, Dad, you can't say that. Why?
Right.
Oh, I get it. I remember when my mom started trying to rap. I remember what it did to my stomach. You're like,
Right.
Mom, no, no, like, don't. Yeah, I get it. I get the cringe.
Yeah. I just stick with my 80s lingo. I just say tubular and awesome and
Oh yeah, awesome.
rad.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome is dateless. You can't put a timestamp
Right?
on that. Yeah,
Right?
awesome,
Yeah.
cool.
Too fun. You're a hoot. I love it.
Yeah, that was really fun.
So, is there anything else that you would like to say? We're getting pretty close to the end here. Any parting words or words of wisdom for people from things that you've
Okay.
learned?
Yes. Yes. I have something to say. Um, yeah, I say this at the end of all my little interviews, and that's trust your intuition, trust your gut. It's gotten us this far, and if you're happy, I'm happy. I do need help, and I think I'm getting it by just talking to people like you, Kelly, and talking to other experiencers. And when we find these commonalities, it just gives you that validation.
Yeah.
and just trust yourself and know that all these things that we can't see are very real. We were born a lot more powerful than they led us to believe. You're born and they say you have your senses, you have your sight, your sound, this and that. Anything more is considered extra. They call it extra, ESP. And I think it's use it or lose it.
Yes.
Practice everything. Practice whatever you're into, whatever your passion is. Practice it. You're not going to be a professional right away. It's like pull-ups. You're not going to be able to do 10 pull-ups right away. Same with your brain. Meditate and I can't do it. I can't shut my brain off. Yeah, I know it's a challenge. Keep practicing. Something will break free after a while. You just got to keep trying. Trust your gut, do the right thing. I talk the talk. It's hard to walk it sometimes, Kelly, but I know
Yeah.
what I need to do. I talk the talk. I don't necessarily walk it all the time. I've still got issues that I'm working on myself, but love is everything. Love you all.
That was beautiful.
Thank
Good
you.
job. Good job. Thank you for being on the show and stick around for just a moment.
Sure.
Hopefully I'm having you back on the show again.
Okay.
Because you were a lot of fun.
Don't you threaten me.
With a good time.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
So, thank you everyone for tuning in. Appreciate you watching, and we'll see you again soon.
Good night, everyone.
Now I gotta put my glasses on because I can't even see the daggone record button. There it is.